everybody. I'm Katie Arroyo.
And I'm Laura Manaswich.
And this is Pinky
Pinky
Promise. A podcast about growing up and technical difficulties.
That one felt very hesitant.
I
that
feel
almost felt like, this is Pinky Promise.
This is something. We have very special guests with us today. We have comedian, podcaster extraordinaire, the host of the Recoil Now podcast. Give it up for Stephen Pratt, even though no one is in an audience.
I'll give it up. I'll clap for him.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Both times. We are recording remotely, as a lot of podcasts do, and I have to say, I just love the 15 minutes of back and forth that we all have with our computers before we actually start the episodes.
I think that should be a YouTube exclusive, is all of the recorded video of us trying to start the podcast.
Like up close-ups of just me being like, is this the camera?
My new podcast project, False Starts.
If I did that with my podcast partner, it would be unreleasable content because we would just be screaming slurs at each other. Like, why can't you do anything right?
Ours is
so much time to prep.
We are so like cognizant of being like gentle to everyone that we're like, oh no, it's fine that you don't know where headphones are. Take your time, go get them. No big deal. Oh,
there's a much different vibe at Pinky Promise than Recoil
Yeah.
Now.
We're like, oh, you didn't have an idea of what you wanted to talk about? That's fine. We'll muddle through. Yeah, and
we do.
Yeah, we muddle. We do a lot of muddling here. But yeah, we are here to talk today to the Stephen Pratt about first jobs. Dun dun dun.
Hey, I like that you guys make your own music for the pod. That's nice.
Yeah, it is. We're on a budget.
Mouth band. Yeah,
we're on a budget and we couldn't afford musicians, so this is where we're at.
Yeah, good stuff.
So Laura, so Laura's thing, Pratt, I love telling Laura's thing for her. Your first job was around high school?
Yeah, my first for real job, I was 16, and it was a pizza restaurant, which I have mentioned, and I was trying to think before
the one Hillary Clinton ran. Is that
no different one? Different.
16's the perfect age for that pizzeria.
Truly, I think we had some of the same managerial staff as that one, but
she ran the upper floor management. You know how they usually have front of house, back of house. This one had
we just had dirty old men who were intent on.
That's good to have on your resume. Yeah,
totally. We just had a lot of creepy adult men who were the managers, who were only interested in hiring pretty 16-year-old girls. Not me. I got hired by a woman, which is on brand. No, but then I was thinking, like, did I work before then? And I would do, like, we didn't have a ton of kids to babysit. Like, I know a lot of people were big on, like, I've been babysitting since I was 12. And I had, like, some, guilt babysitting where it was like, yeah, I guess we'll give her our kids for a couple hours. But I didn't really, that was, like, the pizza restaurant was, like, my first, like, working girl situation.
I babysat when I was around probably 13-ish, and I know people that babysat are like, oh yeah, I've been babysitting since this long, I'm super comfortable around kids. I was continuously anxious throughout the entire process that the kid was going to explode like at any minute, and that continues to hold true. Like, I'll watch your kid, but I will feel the need to constantly entertain them. And like, I saw the first half of that Lindsay Lohan movie, I don't know, 18 times, because I could not be like, maybe we could just like do something else. The one where she's twins. Do you remember that one?
Oh, The Parent Trap?
Yeah, what is it? It's like
Like, I saw the beginning of Scream, and that's why I didn't really want to be a babysitter.
How does that tie? Oh, that's a good reason. How does the Lindsay Lohan movie tie into babysitting? Does she babysit
this kid that I watched just fucking wanted to watch that movie, but only the first 23 minutes. And I was finally like, at one point, like the kid went to bed, and I was like, I have to watch the end of this movie because I need to know how this ends. Like, this is killing me. So where was your first job?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I worked my first like baby job was like I was a paper boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was I was delivering the Brockton Enterprise door to door. I did that. I think that was early early high school, maybe not, maybe even before high school. That might have been like late middle school, maybe something like that. It's hard to timeline
I
it.
feel like
Most of my
Go ahead.
I would say most of my childhood is like I have no idea when things occurred at all. It's the timeline is not it's not great.
I feel like that too. Like I feel sometimes I'm like, oh, I lost my virginity sometime between 6th grade and junior year.
Yeah. But that was like a decent like gig, I guess, for like a kid. It was like, I think it was funny because it's one of those like you have to. I started out splitting it with a friend.
Mhm.
Like we did like because it was too big for the two of us, especially at our age.
Mhm.
But then he like quit, and right as he quit, I was kind of aging into becoming like a little bit
Faster.
like, bigger and able to handle. But like I still couldn't do Sundays on my own because the newspapers were so heavy.
Yeah.
So it was the one day of the week my parents would help me deliver them with like their minivan and stuff.
But so when you're I have a friend that did it, and I remember that that was like not a thing that my parents were like you could do. Like that was another mystery job, like being a comedian. And my friend had a paper route, and she saved all of her money and paid for a car, like a shitty car, but a car in cash with like her paper route money. And I was like,
I'm still living off the paper route money right now. Yeah.
Do you remember? My sister had a paper route, and I like. Do you remember when it was called collecting, when it was like time for the people to pay for their newspaper, and you had, because I just remember like knock 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 collecting, and they had like, I don't know what they were, but it was like 2 circle rings with like the tabs of the perforated things that I guess stood for your subscription. Does that sound familiar?
So yes, that sounds kind of familiar. I think we would like give like. There was like we'd either leave a bill or like an invoice or something. We'd leave something on the door, or maybe they just knew, and then we would get like people would tape an envelope to the door.
Yeah.
So it was when it was on collection day, we'd tape an envelope, and people would sometimes there would be delinquent on their newspaper bill, and they were just like there were people who habitually would take the newspaper then wouldn't get, and like I wish I remembered more specific shit, but it's like you're trying to like scumbag a 13-year-old out of his lunch money,
and it's like $2 like.
Oh yeah, and they were always the most demand like it has to be specifically placed on this at this location, and it can't be at the end of the driveway. They were the ones that would complain. There was always somebody with like a lawn that had never been mowed, and there was like just a rotting boat in the side of the yard or something.
Yeah.
That was but yeah, some people were and then I would get that was like my first introduction to like not getting tipped, and the rage that like subsumes you when that happens.
Yeah, it's good to learn that young.
Yeah, because we had like around Christmas. That's when you like really raked it in was Christmas.
Right.
Like holy shit. I made like I feel like one Christmas I made like $1,000
That's
extra.
nuts for a kid.
Like,
yeah,
and I was like, and so that was wild. And that was on top of like the normal like amount. So just through tips, I really, and that was crazy. But then you would get the people who didn't give you anything around Christmas, and you were just like, cool, I guess we're gonna lose your newspaper, or that'll be showing up late at some point, or it'll be at the end of the driveway. If it gets there, it gets there. But I'm not bringing that up to the steps for you. Yeah.
So one of the most nerve-inducing Nintendo video games as well, Paperboy.
Yeah.
You try not to hit dogs and lawnmowers and all that stuff.
One of the few video games that's very true to life.
That's right.
That was video games before like we could fight aliens. It was just like, what's a job that kids can relate to?
Yeah, what's the one thing kids know?
Just fucking. It's like, what a terrible idea for it's like, hey, secretary, video game. So you just file
you
the
get
paperwork.
like paper cuts. Your boss grabs your ass.
Yeah. You're being replaced by a computer.
This 22-year-old's your boss.
Yeah, you have to type in a certain speed and time. Like you're not going to make the deadline.
I'd suck at that game.
Yeah, no kidding. Me as well. But yeah, and it's funny too because now I remember I don't know if people even get the newspaper in my town anymore. I have no idea what that feels like a job that's like gone.
I was gonna say the paper person is now like a 30-year-old in a Ford Taurus.
Yeah. I remember when like I was like seeing that person do my job at like they were like 45. I think they lived in the same van they were delivering papers out of, and they would just fucking because they must have like. Because like I was like doing what I could do within reason on a bike, and they were like, I think they were like, okay, I'm this is a volume business for me, and they were like, I have bills to pay, and they were fucking like on residential streets, they would go so fucking fast, and then just throw papers out the window, like they didn't give it. It was like, not like the service I gave. That's why I got the big tip. Okay,
yeah.
It's quality over quantity.
Imagine whipping by like that, and then like at Christmas, like you're whipping every day, but then like Christmas time you drive slow because you're like, I need that tip money.
Oh man, I mean that tip money changes lives. I feel like it's a good job too as a kid too, because you probably get bigger tips as a kid than like as a
if you're cute, sure.
Just a station wagon van door opening as beer bottles spill out, and then you throw a.
If I had an
divorce
adult,
has been rough.
Yeah, exactly. If I had an adult paper man, I would be like, just fucking go away. Like, I will pay you money to not come near my property.
I think my mom tips the mailman in Christmas cookies. So I wonder if, because like I feel like our newspaper person like leaves cards at Christmas and stuff.
Like for
so I don't know. Like not for me, but it's like
from them to your
from
family.
Whoever, the Journal Inquirer guy or whatever. Yeah, because I think they still get 2 local papers and like the Sunday New York Times. So I think my parents might be keeping print newspaper.
He's just
going.
leaving really creepy, threatening letters to your notes on your door
Just
or your
notes.
parents. It's just, they're cut out from the actual newspaper, so they know it's him. Like the
I
letters
like the blue shirt.
That's what I was gonna say. The green sweater looks nicer. You're like, no, stop it. But so if you're, this is like, I don't even understand the job. So if you're a paper boy, did your parents have to drive you to the newspaper facility and like pick up your papers?
No, so what happened was like it was they had like drop off spots. So you would have your route, and there's like it's almost like a Ponzi scheme of like, here's the guy above. My boss was a guy who dropped off a big stack of newspapers at the corner, and so I would get it whenever time I would like go back from school. I knew the papers were coming out, so I would drop my bags off, and then I would go like ride my bike up to the top of the hill or whatever. Sometimes if I knew I had to like if I couldn't carry when my route got bigger, I would like bring half the papers back to my house. So then I'd do a loop. I'd come back around, grab the rest of the paper so I could physically carry them. I'd go do the second half of the loop or whatever. But yeah, they just show up in like in a bundle. And I think on Sundays they might have dropped them off at our house because they were just so
big,
heavy.
Yeah,
because they get all the like the
coupons and
there was like it feels so like it feels like such an antiquated thing to like do. But it's like so they were just fatter Sunday magazines, and they were
well, it is weird. Like
newspapers.
I remember being a kid, and like reading the Sunday paper was like something that I did as a kid, like trying to find the things that I thought were interesting in the paper, like the comics, and then like whatever the fuck else they would be. Like I'd be like trying to act like I was grown up and like find other things to read in my Sunday paper.
That's funny. I don't think I read one paper I delivered ever. I don't think I was pretty much an illiterate paper boy. I was like doing a job. I was like,
they're like, this is Tuesday. You're like, I don't know.
We had
if you say so, lady. I don't.
One of our smaller ones on Saturdays. They had the mini pages, which was like teaching kids to read the newspaper, basically. So there would be like cartoon, like critters. There'd be like a brief, like paragraph about a celebrity or historical person, and then there was like a word search. And I was like, I'm pretty into reading the paper.
I feel like I vaguely remember that. No, the newspaper was like a deal. It was like a thing that mattered at one point in time, and it was like, I mean, people would literally be like, I remember there were people that would wait for it.
Yeah.
Especially on Sunday, they would be like, like that was like that. Like
that
I can't start my day.
Routine. Yeah,
it's like I can't. I need this, a coffee and a shit, or otherwise the day has not begun. So right. I remember there was an old guy who used to be like, he was just like waiting at the door for that thing. No, it's bizarre.
So what made you stop being a paper boy and move on to something else?
I became a man. I became
That's right.
a paper
You became a
man.
man. Okay.
My voice became deeper. My testicles descended, and they took away my badge and gun, and I was never allowed to deliver papers again.
You were like, I can carry all the Sunday newspapers at once now.
Once you can curl the bed, it's like we want it to be difficult and uncomfortable for you.
That's part of the gig, boy.
You've built all the character you're going to build on this.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly why. I think part of it was I was kind of tired of doing it. I think I was a little like I think I maybe took on more. Like I think I got to the point where I had maybe overextended myself with how much I was doing because the money was good. So I was like I want to keep seeing what I can do. And then I think my mom had to get involved, like because she was like I think just more like when it got big enough, she was like keeping the books or whatever to make sure like who was like that stuff, and then
which feels
she was
like
fixing
so
the books,
much,
yeah. My mom was a loan shark, and so so she was doing that, and then every Sunday they had to go get and then it just became a bigger deal and once they had to do more and more, and then I think maybe high school started, or maybe I did it for 1 year. I don't know. And then it was like, all right, now my workload of school stuff, and I was an athlete too.
Yeah,
an athlete.
And I'm sure
I was running cross country, but I couldn't do all of it. So I think that kind of timed out.
Sure.
On it.
And I'm sure as you're like being a teenager, and they're like, "Did you want to keep getting up early on the weekends?" And you're like, "Absolutely not."
I was like, I've recently discovered masturbating, and that's way better than making money on a paper route. I mean, I would only be getting the money and using it on that anyway.
I can't do that on a bike, so pass.
yeah, it's really well. I mean, I could do it on a bike, but it's not.
It's not ideal.
Podcast, Stephen.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Whoopsie daisy. I mean, when I realized I needed to go to church on Sundays, and I was not fulfilling my obligation to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
All right. So you became a paper man and retired from that.
I retired, yeah. But then I did end up getting another job in high school. I started working at like a D'Angelo sub shop. I don't know if anybody's
Hell yeah.
familiar with their work, but that was fun. Anybody, you guys work in the food service industry at any point?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is how you responded to it. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Like a veteran back from war.
Yeah, I feel like every person should be required to work in food service. And that's not only food service, but specifically food service where you are dependent. Your salary is dependent on tips, because I feel like that is a character building or character showing job or experience. But it's also stressful.
Yeah.
And you get to figure out who you are and who other people are. Like, and it's like a good, like, it's the stakes are, I mean, not that I shouldn't say they're low for everybody. Some people need the paycheck, but it's like, to some degree, it's good to know if you can handle the stress before you get to like flying a plane or something or whatever, because like some people are turned into like, there are people I was like, oh, I like this person. And then there was like a rush and I was like, I think I hate this person. Yeah. This is not a good person. I would not want to live with this person or be around this person or anything that wasn't the perfect smooth sail conditions of life. Yeah.
I had actual not problems, but I would just be like, if I've worked every kind of restaurant job, from like upscale dining to bartending to like bartending at like a club to bartending at a shitty Tex-Mex place and like building a lunch crowd there. And there were people that I was like, I just can't be friends with you because you cannot handle it if you have more than 2 tables, and I see you as weak now. Because it is like, it's like you said, it is
I was definitely incompetent when I've also waited tables. I was definitely not a very good waiter. I remember one time I came out and I had, I still get like, those things where like you get hot in the shower, like you're just like by yourself and you like your face turns red.
Yeah.
I walked this woman's, I had a bowl of soup, and I don't know how I did this, but I held her soup and my entire thumb was in her soup. And when
because
you're like,
you just grab it and you're like, I just need to be able to hold it.
And it burned so much, but I was on autopilot, and I was just so like, I was having such anxiety, and I couldn't think my way out of stopping my body or readjusting the situation. And so I just walked up and put it on the table in front of her with my thumb in her soup while my thumb was like cooking in her soup.
Yeah.
And then they go, thank you. And then I walked away, and they were old, and I completely heard that she was like, his thumb was in my soup. And I was just like,
That's okay.
And then I came back, and I don't think she had touched the soup, but she didn't complain. She was very nice about it.
That was good.
But that was yeah. But no, I was not a good waiter, but like I didn't let it make me a shitty person. It's actually the only job I've ever been fired from is being a waiter.
Because you sucked, or because
I sucked. Yeah, I was so bad. They had this thing. This was at Chili's that I worked at. And they had so many complaints filed online about me that
like what?
It was like I can't remember. I think my mind is blocked at what they were, but like, so here's what happened. So I got called into the office of the manager, and he was like, hey, can you come here before shift starts or whatever? And he was just like, listen, and he just had like a file. He had like a file of like all these complaint people, because like, I think like if you like gave a review on Chili's, like you get a
coupon.
Yeah,
you get some bullshit. Yeah, it's like you get a presidential margarita, you fat fucking loser. And then so you get one of those, and then but you have to, if you review the thing, and they just shit on me, and they were like, he was terrible, slow, blah, blah, and I had amassed so many. I can't remember the specifics, but it hurt my feelings like a lot. And the guy read it to me, and I don't think he didn't want to read them to me because he wasn't like a manager. He was like he was like a buddy manager.
Your friend, your cool manager.
He was the cool manager, and he was like, so we got to work on some stuff, man. I'm like, all right. And then I was like, all right. And I had a pretty good shift or whatever after that. And then I came back in the next day for my next shift, and he was like, hey, I got to let you go. The head manager, he's like, we can't keep you. And he's like, but you can be a cook. And I was like, yeah, let me come back in the place I got where I couldn't hack it. And when I'm like, hey guys, when you get fired, can you imagine how insulting that is to the cooks?
Right?
It's like, hey, I can't hack it out there, but you guys are borderline not, I mean, you're all on drugs. So what does it matter?
You guys aren't even awake. So
you guys, most of you are coming off or beginning a coke binge. So it's okay. We'll let this incompetent waiter do your job.
I will say, I did feel like there was a hierarchy in my restaurant jobs where it was like bartender, server, host or hostess, busboy, line cook. Oh, chef is like up there somewhere, but then it goes line cook and then dishwasher. Where as far as like attractiveness and the personality and like busboys would be like, I've got to work to become a server.
Yeah.
I loved busing because I was like, you're telling me I explicitly should not talk to anyone and I have to get tipped out? Yes. Let me, I'll bus, I'll touch your weird, gross food all night.
That job's like the closest to socialism. It's like, okay, I get the tips that I didn't. It's like, that sounds good to me. For everyone to his ability. Thank you very much.
I remember, like, I mean, it's also like, what an exercise in understanding how trash people are. So I worked at a Bertucci's, and they give kids like little Play-Dohs to play with, which is just a nightmare for anyone who has to clean afterwards. And the town that it was in had like a huge youth soccer program. So we would always get on weekends, like huge parties of soccer kids and their adults afterwards. And they would just destroy the restaurant. And the bar was like its own room. And so it was like good to put parties in. If you didn't want them in people's hair, you'd like fuck over the bartender and be like, sorry about it, but you're getting this. And like this one party, I'll never forget, like the kids like trashed crayons and dough, like smashed into everything. And like one of the moms like had a conscience and was like trying to clean up some of the stuff. And the dad like put his hand out and stopped her and was like, no, they get paid for this. And it was like, we don't get paid for your kids to destroy our restaurant. But thanks, cool dad. I hope you get a soccer ball to the nuts.
No, I've never been. That's a job that it's only comparable to road rage, like the kind of, because I'm a pretty but man, if you have a bad, it's like I'm the worst it's like it's like normal Stephen, you know, not racist, not sexist, not but boy, to ever I'm just become the worst human being when you either don't tip me or cut me off and I'm driving a car. I'm like just the worst person. But yeah, no, it's an infuriating job because you're so it's just,
you're at their mercy, and it's so annoying. I think for me, like, I got to the point where I think I started at that point, but like I very quickly got to a point where like the worst thing you could ever see as a server is a fucking bus of children, and you're like, no, and they always would come in like right before closing, and like anytime there were like a group of kids, I got to the point where like, and they always wanted separate checks, so it'd be like 27 separate checks, and I remember I'd get to the point where I'd be like, to each parent, I'm like, you're number 1, you're number 2, da da da. Tell your kid what the number is. And I was like, and if your kid can't tell me the number, I'm not putting in his order. And they'd be like, okay. And then like literally like kids be running around, they're like, I want a cheeseburger, that's my mom. And I'm like, no, what's your number? Like, I'm not fucking around with you. And then like people would complain about food after they ate all of it. And then like I bet that, yeah. I'd get to the point where they'd be like, I didn't really like this, and I'd be like, "That's weird. Your plate said something different," and then just walk away because like I'm just not.
Because you're not getting a tip at that point anyway. So it's like, why am I gonna? I'm like, all right, let me get a manager. Yeah, I'll get a manager. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like I wouldn't even argue. Like, okay, okay, great. Okay, I'll get a manager. Yeah. That's fine. I don't care. No, but people are real shit. That's probably the job I've hated the most out of any job I've had too. Right? And I've had some like. That's probably the way. And I worked in another retail before, like I worked or after that I worked for like in a jewelry store, and that was like that. Some people really were annoying there too, but it's not the same power dynamic where people are quite as terrible.
I loved it so much. Like when the staff is great, I truly feel like I've never had more fun at work. But then if the staff is like unstable or the management sucks or the customers suck more than the people are good, then you're like, this is torture.
You're like, I'm going to burn this restaurant down.
But when it's fun, you're like, I want to come in on Saturday morning for a staff meeting. Hell yeah, there's bagels. Like, I don't know.
I mean, the environment is, unfortunately, Chili's is not fine dining. I come to find it was not a great, oh my God.
But I mean, everyone there was,
the staff was terrible. They were all degenerates. And not like fun degenerates, just like kind of like don't turn your back, don't leave your phone on out, like because it's gonna disappear type. And then and the staff, nobody really trained me. Nobody so that's probably part of the reason why I sucked. I was like, and I just was like, I don't know, I didn't care. I should have studied the menu. I didn't, which not even a knock on me, but it was also like it seems so lax, and no one was like trying to do. I don't know.
Real training. Yeah. Anyway. I think mixing those kind of places suck to work at because you're mixing corporate culture with food service industry, and you're like, they don't go. Like the reason I can put up with the annoying parts of the service industry is because I don't have to be part of corporate culture. Like we can be drinking on the job, or we can do whatever. But when you get that kind of thing where you have to say specifically a certain thing at the table, or like, I worked places where like if you didn't bring coasters over within 30 seconds and they'd be watching you would get like spoken to about that.
Now make sure you mention our hot fritter fries and cheese toppers, and make sure you say especial at the end of every. It's like, like, dude, oh God.
When you would like answer the phone with whatever the 3 paragraphs of seasonal jargon was, and somebody would be like, Jesus, can I just order? And you're like, I'd love to. Please don't cut me off or I have to start over. Like,
I'm required to cut off a finger every time you make me begin again, and I'm already down to mostly nubs on my left hand. I would really appreciate it.
Would you like a Dunkin' Delight side salad?
Those are really the worst, and they get the worst clientele too. Like the people that come, like they're garbage humans. I mean, they're not.
No one's going there to like.
It's just such white trash. Chili's was the whitest trash piece of shit human beings. I mean. Anyway, I'm still bitter. They were awful.
You know what?
Yeah. I literally like before the internet was. I got basically a million mean tweets. The version of like you I wasn't. That's was not ready.
People had to dial up their internet to shit on you.
Yes, legitimately. they were like, I'm gonna. Oh man, can you imagine going home and writing it? If a waiter literally shit on the table, I wouldn't write a thing about it. I'd be like, well,
now I have a cool story.
I think we one time had a woman who changed a diaper at a table, if I'm not mistaken. Like it was just real low class, like just vile.
Yeah. Yikes.
I had a woman whose kid was barfing, and there were two sides to this restaurant, and I fucking love working at this restaurant, but there were two sides, and one was the fun bar side that was like hardwood, and the other side was like the family side that was carpet. And if you were, so
smoking, non-smoking.
Exactly. And so someone had their kid in the carpet side, and the kid was getting like sick. And so listen, the first barf I'll give you, like, okay, whoops, we didn't know that was coming. But the kid was like not feeling well, but not actively barfing. And she was like, oh, and like patting his back and being like, just let it out. And I was like, fucking go to the bathroom, you animal. Like, I have to clean this. Like, what are you talking about?
People are animals. Some people should not be allowed outside of their house.
No.
Like, it's really crazy. This is something I've heard from servers and bartenders now since living in Brooklyn, which I didn't encounter when I was waiting tables. I don't know if you heard of this. Have you found that, or did you ever find that teachers were terrible tippers?
You know what? Yes. Because when they like come out in a whole group.
Yes, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because teachers are underpaid and they used to be servers. Like, but you would.
I think they like to use that as an excuse, is what I was told. They'll say like how important what they do. They'll bring that up, and it's just like a very
I did used to experience that. It's only in large groups, but then because I think when they do the large groups, it's sometimes it's paid for by the school or something. So maybe because people do that when it's like when the thing is comped or whatever, they're like, oh, well, we don't have to tip on it. So I wonder if maybe that's part of it too. But they are sort of, I don't know if there's like a little entitlement going on. There's definitely something where it's a group of teachers and everyone would be like, all right, we just know we're not going to make a lot of money. And then the same thing would be like wild hit or miss would be events with open bar, where if you had a cool group of people, you would make so much money because everyone would just give you like $20 to $50 like up top, or just they drop money during, or it'd be
they keep going up so much.
Or the exact opposite, where people would give you like, they'd bring no money. Like they'd be like, oh, it's an open bar, so they bring no cash with them, and they're like pulling out a quarter, and you're like, and those are the people that are drinking like 75 drinks. And so to this day, if I go to an open bar wedding, I will put down like $20 or $30 up front, and then the bartender will always go to you first, because they're like, you've already shown me that you're gonna tip me, instead of Mr. Quarters down the line.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. I can't imagine having to host a wedding. That's got to be just awful. But anyway, yeah. What's the worst job you guys have had?
I worked at Eckerd Drugs, and that was like my first real job.
My first encounter with OxyContin addiction.
I wanted it to be, like, honestly. That's when, and I got really fast with the cash register, but my feet, like, and I was young, but just standing in one spot for hours, and then the other option was you would front and face the product. And I was like, fucking kill me. You would just go down the aisle and like turn the shampoo bottles. And it was like,
oh, I've done that. I was at a grocery store. Yeah. That was my second least favorite job, probably.
But I feel like the boredom, like it's when you're serving, 8 hours goes by and you're like, oh shit, I need to, like, it's closing time. We got to go out. At Eckerd Drugstore, which became like a CVS, 20 minutes would go by and I'd be like, I'm not gonna make this 4-hour shift. Like, I'm gonna kill myself. How about you, Laura?
Yeah,
I had a part-time job at a newspaper that was like billed as an advertising job, and it was formatting the obituaries. And sometimes I got to do a tag sale, but mostly I was on obituary duty, and it was like putting in like the funeral home's logo, checking the death certificate to make sure the person was really dead, and then like
How old were you?
I was probably like 23 3, 4.
I was really
like
hoping you were going to be like a teenager. Like that's
no, I
like,
wish. No, I had been
like,
laid off from a insurance company job, and I had been collecting unemployment, and then I found this, and I was like, it's advertising, my dreams. And then I was making less money than I was collecting unemployment to do like just
a lot of
mundane.
that going around now.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. And then I like anything you did right, they'd be like, wow, you're really bright. And I'd be like, I think I'm literate. I think that's like
well, what's so funny about that is like the fact that you had to check the death certificate to make sure the person was actually dead suggests that this
Someone
has happened. Someone had not. Like what? How did that? Was this a prank? Did somebody prank the newspaper? Or
I don't know. I don't know.
That's
I didn't.
Hilarious. It was put a fake obituary, especially when newspapers mattered. Like that was
I know. Yeah.
People be like, "Oh fuck, Frank died." Jesus Christ!
It was
Frank's like waiting for a Sunday paper.
And then I put my notice in, and they were like, "What could
people
we do?
Can't die now. Now we can't let people die
to make you stay." And I was like, "Well, you could make it a better job." But short of that. No, I think I was like, I think it's my time to move on. Like I was driving like almost an hour each way, and I was like, this
what happens?
Is a nightmare.
What happens when the obituary person dies? Who writes their obituary? Like,
you think
probably the tax sale lady.
Yeah,
yeah. Like she loved writing and submitting obituaries to our.
She knows all the best funeral homes. She chose her favorite.
We just can't. Yours that never. The obituary person never gets an obituary because no one's there.
No one's there to format it. Yeah. You just have to funny. Like put it in a future folder. Write your own.
You can't die. You're just, or you're trading someone because you're gonna die. You're like you do a good job on mine. All right, seriously.
Do me right.
Don't mess up the logo.
But they don't even tell you. You're like, why do I have a replacement? Oh God, am I not doing well? Like, do I not look good? Oh God.
Like,
you've been looking a little pale lately. Get some jaundice in your sclera. We're not sure if you're going to make it. So this is Tina. She'll be your understudy for the next week.
So either funerals or I had a brief stint at a seasonal position at Express. And because it was seasonal, I wasn't trained on anything. So my job was like
to get the
harass customers and like make sure the sweaters are in size order. And all I wanted was to be trained on the register, and I wasn't going to be around long enough for that.
Yeah.
You just reminded me my actual worst job. It was so short, I forgot. I worked at a store called Northern Reflections, which
the wolf store.
Yes, the wolf store. So I don't know if you know what this is, Stephen. It is women of a certain age enjoy the clothes from this store, and it's like pastel colored t-shirts or like hunter green type palettes with like wolves and like foxes and like ducks, like a lot of ducks.
Heterosexual women?
Well, you know. It goes, yeah.
You're not allowed to ask.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, you're trying. I noticed you're trying to buy a wolf shirt, ma'am. Are you a lesbian? Because we can't sell it to you if you're not. Do you have your card? We can see your card.
We support you. We want you to dress better. But my friend's mom was obsessed with the place, like the whole store. And she was like, there was one opening and she was like, I'm going to get you guys into this store. And me and my friend worked there. And they made you wear the clothes from the store that we had to buy. Yeah.
Oh, really?
We had to pay money for these clothes. And it was like shorts that like go just above your knees, but are also very loose. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I don't know.
A blousey short.
A blousey short.
We call that hiking on drugs.
Yeah.
That's
That's what, yeah. And I remember like both of us were like, what the fuck can we buy from here that we would wear? And it was like absolutely nothing on the bottom. So like we bought blousey shorts. And then I remember they had like 2 t-shirts that didn't have a duck on them. And we bought like both of those t-shirts. And then we just had to fold clothes, which to me that was worse than front and facing at Eckerd's. And I think I lasted like 4 days, like 4 shifts. And then I told my friend Megan, I was like, I can't do this fucking job. I hate it. And she was like, I hate it too. And we didn't make enough money on our paycheck to like pay for the clothes that we had to buy to work there.
Wow.
And we were like, we just can't. I'm like, I can't do this job. Like, I will do any other job. This is so terrible.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was just so boring. And the clothes were ugly. So it wasn't even like you were like looking at something that you wanted to buy.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, that's rough. Actually, the grocery store job that I said was really bad. I worked that with Tilson over a summer. Do you know Tilson, Laura?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, he it was not a good job because I think we were like one of 4 people that spoke English. So we were like, it was already like we were very isolated. We were just like stock boys. We were like 20-year-old stock boys.
Did you guys? So you already knew each other.
Yeah. Okay. This is on Martha's Vineyard where John's dad like grew up, kind of. So they have like a house down there.
But did you just go there? Like, were you guys supposed to have like a white boy summer and work at this like grocery store? But then, like,
before white boy summer was a thing. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we went down with me, him, and another friend from high school, and I think John's cousin. We got like we lived underneath a cat shelter, and it was like it was like one of the worst. Oh no, it was. I mean, you would think so, but it was really like we just walked past these cats with like one eye and had no paws, and then we walk, and then we go to our.
Your grocery store.
We lived in a basement with no windows, and like it was awful, and we were just terrible alcoholics. But we were 20, so we couldn't even drink. It was a terrible summer. But the thing, John had it really rough because he got moved over to like produce at some point. Like that was he was like a produce boy. And he ended up, the guy who was like his not boss, but like I guess like just above, above, purely because he was older and had been there like a week longer. Like that's how that was. And it turned out he was like massively schizophrenic, and he was like really fucking weird, and he was like very obsessed with. He got like all of a sudden he got weirdly religious and talked about he would corner John in these rooms. Like we would walk into like these produce. This like you have to go in like this walk-in freezer.
Yeah.
Or fridge or whatever, and we're all like the produce was kept, and he would like corner John in there, and like because John would go in first, and then he would get in afterwards, so he couldn't. And it was like it was a bowling alley, so you can't walk out. I've worked with people that I've been like, be aware of like who's in the cooler with. Like there were definitely situations where I was like, I'm not going in the cooler right now with Bozo around because. And when he would get John alone, he would just tell him like that he was hearing voices and that he wants to kill himself and all this shit. And John is just like, dude, I'm trying to white boy summer right now. What are you doing?
No. I've got the cats to worry about. I can't.
And he would like, oh yeah, and he was like, he would just really creep John out, and then John would be like, okay, and then they go back out and he'd act totally normal around like everybody. Yeah, and John was like, dude, he's fucked up. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's fucking fine.
He's a great guy.
and then he did it to me one time, and I was like, oh okay, no, he's like, yeah, he's really. Wow. Yeah. But I'm so glad I had to work with him.
Yeah.
That was a terrible job. That was a bad one. It's funny because that job, he and I always talked about, like, when you're a stock boy in a grocery store, it's probably exacerbated on an island, a vacation island where people have like money too. It's probably worse there, but you are invisible. Like you might as well be Frodo with the ring. Like people just cannot see. They just can't see you.
Yeah.
It's
you're
like,
just like a box.
No, 100. I might as well just be like I'm a fixture of the store. I'm not like I'm not a living, breathing person.
Yeah.
Like automate that job if you can. Like it's essentially, as far as the humans on that island are concerned, it already is. So yeah. But that was a bad one. That was just that one was rough.
I didn't think anything was gonna beat Chili's.
I mean, Chili's was the most humiliating just because I was so bad at it. I was a decent stock boy at least. You know, I turns out I'm able to organize and categorize things by their shape and color.
Good job.
Relatively well. Yeah. And I seem to be better at the job than people who are immigrated there that can't speak English. So I have that going for me. But
I'm on par with the schizophrenic man.
Yes.
Yeah. If you can be an invisible stock boy, it's better than a bad server.
It's better than a visible, terrible server.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. But yeah, and the hours were bad, and we were just such alcoholics that year. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you?
Well, now I'm a paramedic, so if you're dying,
real? Yeah.
So if you have
If you want to Yelp review his service,
now instead of putting thumbs in soup, I just people die, But no,
it's so much better.
I mean, I'm actually decent at this job. But yeah, no. If you're for comedy, you can find me at the Stephen Pratt on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. My podcast is Recoil Now. Follow that on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Recoil Now. I produce a show out of Brooklyn at Anyone Comics in Crown Heights. It's a pretty cool DIY show down in the basement of a comic book store. That'll be starting up again potentially July 24th. You can follow that at Geek Sauce Comedy on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect.
And call 911.
Yeah.
And 911. Yeah, and 911.
Call 911 if you want to chat.
And ask for Steven.
Yeah, if you want to do a 12 lead on you. Good.
If you need your cabinets organized, just call 911.
Yeah.
He'll get everything looking good.
Yeah, that's what I do instead of my grandma's not breathing. Hold on, this is a mess in
You're
here.
like,
What are you?
You should not be mixing the cans of tomato.
Front face all her meds and see what's going on.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah.
All right, follow Steven, follow his podcast, follow our podcast if you're not already. Like us on all the things at Pinky Promise Pod. Leave a review. A nice one.
Yeah, subscribe, tell us nice things. Go to Chili's and leave a nice review about Steven, please.
Yeah.
Have an El Presidente margarita. Regret nothing.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Bye.